There's a lot of different properties spread across Los Santos, Sandy Shore, and Paleto Bay. I mean, you can see just all of the properties I own. It's absolutely insane. And obviously, if you're a new player, or you're just a player in general trying to purchase yourself a property, today's video is going to be a great guide for you, because I'm going to be going over all of the best locations and reasons why certain properties are important based on their location and others aren't. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video as always, and if you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. With that being said, I'm going to try and make this video as fast and easy to understand as possible, so that I don't waste your time. With that being said, let's start off with motorcycle clubhouses. It does not matter where you buy a motorcycle clubhouse. The only reason you're going to buy this property is for two things. First of all, you can register as a MC president, and then you can call in any personal motorcycle you want very easily stored inside of your motorcycle clubhouse. The second reason is because you can purchase the motorcycle club businesses in your property. That's the only way to get, any of the motorcycle club businesses. So because of that, doesn't matter where you own one. My recommendation is to get one of the three here: Great Chaparral Clubhouse, Sandy Shores, or Grapeseed. These are all basically the same price. If you have the Criminal Enterprise Starter Pack, you get this one for free. I have still not really changed my location since I've had one. You don't need to get any of the upgrades. If you want the custom bike shop, you can get it, especially if you're a beginner doing life and death bikes. But in general, I really wouldn't recommend to spend any of your money on motorcycle clubhouses past, just the buying fee. That way you can purchase the businesses and kind of forget about them. Now, when it comes to your motorcycle business locations, only buy the locations in Sandy Shores. We can see I've got my math lab right here, I got my counterfeit cash factory right here, and I have my coke lock up here. And then I also have my weed, which is a little bit off in the distance. These are the only locations that you should be purchasing. There are also locations off in Paleto Bay, and some people think to themselves, well, if I buy a location here, does that mean I get to sell to Sandy? If it did, trust me, I'd be buying the Paleto Bay. But unfortunately, no, that's not the case. If you buy Paleto Bay, you still have to sell all the way to the city, literally just a waste of time, and they're more money than the Sandy Shores, which is kind of a joke. If you buy the ones in the city, these are the most expensive locations by far. And if you're selling from the city, you have to drive them to Sandy Shores. So either way, you're traveling the same distance. The only difference is that if you're selling in the city, and especially you're in a public lobby, now you have motorcycles, vans, trucks sitting in the open for players to make their way to and destroy. Because of that, I would not recommend to sell any of your products in the city. Purchase the Sandy Shores locations. It is by far the best, and they're the cheapest, so there's really no downside to that. Pulling back up our phone, we now move on to bunkers. And bunkers are obviously a very, very good way of earning money. They're quick, they're easy to use, and not only that, but if you don't have your bunker research completed, it's a great way to get weaponized vehicles like the Tampa and the Oppressor with its homing missiles. So there's a bunch of bunkers, none of which are located in the city. The two closest are the Farmhouse Bunker and the Chumash Bunker. The Farmhouse is the one I own. It's the most expensive in the game. If you have some extra cash, this is probably the location that's best. It is directly off the highway. It's in a location where not many people are driving to, so they're not going to see your vehicles if you're doing a sale mission, and in general, it's just a very, very easy spot. But I would also say that the Chumash Bunker is a great property. It's only 1.6 million, making it basically half the price of the Farmhouse Bunker. It's even cheaper than the ones out here in Route 68. These are further away, much longer distance for the sale missions, yet they're more expensive than the Chumash. This is a great property, and it's by far one of the closest to the city. In fact, it's actually closer if you follow this road than it is from the Farmhouse Bunker. The only difference is that, sometimes the sale missions are over here, which can be a little bit annoying to have to go all the way around the mountains. But in general, Chumash is great. The only upgrades you're going to need to get are the personal quarters when purchasing this property. In general, any business that requires sale missions, I would recommend to get a decent location for. And the reason why is because the further you are from your sale mission destination, well, the longer it's going to take for you to complete that. Especially if you're trying to sell in public lobbies with that high demand bonus, I'd recommend to get properties that are located more towards the city or wherever you are most likely going to have that sale mission completed. And that brings us over to the Hangar. Now, the Hangar has really two different locations. You have LSIA, the cheapest being 1.2 million, and you have Fort Zancudo, the cheapest being 2 million. I would definitely recommend to go with Fort Zancudo. The reason why is because you do not get cops when spawning in at the military base. Even if you're a new player, if you get the Fort Zancudo location, it's great because you can literally steal a plane right off of the strip here like a laser. It's great. So in that regard, I'd highly recommend to get the Fort Zancudo location, especially because you don't get cops. The second reason this location is really good is because it's directly in the center of the map, so you have missions that'll spawn over in Sandy Shores and in the city, and it's just quicker to do, you know, both of these missions. So that is why you should always go with the Fort Zancudo location. The only upgrades you're going to need are the workshop and as well the sleeping quarters. Nothing too crazy, with there only being 2 locations. So that brings us over to facilities. Facilities, I'll be honest, one of the more useless properties in the game. Yes, I know there's people that are like, but what about the Bogdan replay glitch? I get it. If you're doing replay glitches, sure, eat your heart out. But at the end of the day, for most players, they're not going to be doing glitches, and they're not going to be using the facility. You need 2 people to do the Doomsday Heist, and while they are very fun, they don't really pay that much. The Cayo Perico Heist pays a lot better. You can do it solo. So I wouldn't really recommend to get a facility unless Rockstar's giving double payouts for it. But if you do still want to get your hands on a facility, my recommendation would be for the Ron Alternates Wind Farm. It's a lot cheaper than any of these 3 facilities down here, and it's right off the highway. All you need to do is drive your car up this little, like, dirt path, and you've gotten your hands on one of the better facility locations. I definitely would not recommend to go for the Land Act Reservoir. The other facility location that's pretty good is the Lago Zancudo. If you already own a military base here, and you own the Chumash bunker over here, then you basically just have 3 really good spots to own a, you know, property cluster at. So you can make your way to all 3 of these properties very, very quickly. When it comes to the facility, don't waste your money on the graphics, on the orbital cannon, don't waste your money on the security room, don't waste your money on the lounge. The only thing you need is sleeping quarters, which is going to cost you $150,000. You don't need the upgraded sleeping quarters either, just so you can spawn in here if you're ever going to do any of the missions. Apart from that, I really can't recommend to waste your money on that. Apart from the facilities, now we move over to nightclubs. Nightclubs are one of the most important purchases you can make in GTA Online. In fact, at the time of recording, we got double money on the warehouse technicians, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, you can only buy nightclubs in the city. As you can see, there are none located anywhere else. Now, the most important nightclub location is really going to be depending on what office building you own. If you own the Maze Bank office building or the Arcadius, which are located around here, then probably getting your hands on the Strawberry Nightclub or the Mission Row Nightclub are going to be more important. But if you have the Maze Bank West office building, which is around this area, then it's going to be much better to go with Del Perro or Vespucci Canals. My recommendation is you own Maze Bank West, go for Vespucci Canals. It's only 1.3 million. And if you own the Arcadius or the Maze Bank Tower, go for Mission Row. It's 1.4 million. Still pretty inexpensive. And, you know, this one as well. Strawberry's fine. But those would be my recommendations. Don't go for one that's all the way off here, Malaysian Island. This is a waste of money, right? It's the cheapest, but trust me, you get what you pay for. It's all the way off in China, and it's kind of useless. Now, I do own the LSIA nightclub on my Broke to Billions account, and that's because you can simply set your spawn location as sleeping quarters here, and then you can fast travel. So I don't think the LSIA nightclub location's bad either, especially if you're trying to save a bit of money, but in general, it's only 200,000 more for Vespucci Canals, and I think most of you probably own Maze Bank West, so this is what I would recommend to go with personally. When it comes to upgrades, you do need to get the storage, but apart from that, I think it already comes with a sleeping quarter, so not too big of a deal. Now, arcades, as we can see, there are some arcades located off in China. We have Grapeseed, which is 1.5 million, and Paleto Bay, which is 1.2 million. If you actually plan on doing the casino heist, you have a friend that you're doing it with, well, I would not recommend to get one of these 2 locations. It's just a waste of money. So my recommendation is to get an arcade that is located somewhere in the city. But a big warning, if you don't really plan on doing the Diamond Casino Heights, don't buy an arcade. Get your hands on a Garment Factory. It's a much better purchase, especially because it can also store the terabyte. But if you're still hard set on getting an arcade, my recommendation would probably be to go with the 8-bit Vinewood. It's expensive, but it's also one of the better locations. I think the Rockford Hills is obviously really good as well. Once again, it depends where your office building is. If you have Maze Bank West here, then it's going to be a little faster to drive over to the Vinewood. But if you own, you know, this Maze Bank over here, that's going to be closer to Rockford Hills. In general, all the arcades are pretty expensive, and, well, they're all going to do the same thing, so it really depends on where the closest location to your office building is. We have auto shops. Auto shops, I would really only recommend to look at like 3. We have the Strawberry location, we have the Mission Row, and we also have Burton. Yeah, you got some locations which are a little bit further out, but like, I don't even get it. The Rancho and as well the La Mesa are more expensive than Strawberry, even though Strawberry's right here. Why would you buy, like, this is your Maze Bank Tower. Why would you ever buy, you know, Mission Row? Well, Mission Row is actually fine on the price tag. Why would you ever buy Rancho, which is all the way down off in China, and it's more money? Personally, either go for Mission Row or Strawberry if you own the Maze Bank Tower, which is right here, because it's right down the road. And, you know, I think the most expensive is Burton, which I own. It's a very nice location. It's right down the road from my CEO building, but it really depends on what location works best for you. I would probably recommend Strawberry, especially because if you own a salvage yard, which we can talk about right now, you can also get the Strawberry salvage yard location. So you can have both your auto shop and chop shop right next to each other, making it very, very easy to go in between businesses. So I would definitely recommend the Strawberry location. I think the La Puerta is the most expensive. I wouldn't really recommend to buy La Puerta. I also wouldn't really recommend to buy Marietta Heights because it's all the way off in the distance. So, yeah, out of the chop shops, like, why would you ever buy the ones in Sandy Shores? These are a waste of money. Don't buy those. Recommendation for me would probably be Strawberry. It's the best location, and it's not too big of an expense. So that would be my recommendation there. Bail offices, I don't know why you would ever buy a bail office, but they're all kind of useless. We have Davis for $2 million. We have Mission Row for $2.4 million. We have downtown Vinewood for 2.6. I don't know why it's so expensive. Once again, if you own the Maze Bank building, this one's going to be the closest, Mission Row at 2.4. But even then, why would you buy that one when you can just get Davis and save another $400,000 and have to spend like an extra 10 seconds driving there? The one I own is Del Perro because, once again, I'm used to having... I've only just recently upgraded my office building to the Maze Bank one, but in general... if you're gonna be sitting at Maze Bank West, just go for Del Perro. It's one of the cheaper locations, and it's a great spot for anybody to use their bail office. But in general, just don't buy the one off here. Why would you? Why would you ever buy Paleto Bay? So useless of a location. To finish off, we have the Mackenzie Hangar and the Garment Factory, but as we can see, they're both set locations, so it doesn't really matter. That brings us over to Dynasty 8 Executive. Dynasty 8 Executive, you have really 2 properties to look at, and that is the office building and the agency. So we can start off with the office buildings. You have basically 4, right? This is a waste. Lone Bank West, 3.1 million. What the heck? We have Maze Bank West, and then we have the normal Maze Bank Tower and the Arcadius. I don't understand why you would ever buy Maze Bank, which is like double the money of Arcadius. Just go for Arcadius. They're right next to each other. And I would recommend Maze Bank West out of all of them because it's the cheapest, especially if the criminal enterprise starter pack it's free. Why would you spend 3.1 million on Lone Bank West when they're literally 10 feet across from each other? Like, this should be pretty common sense. Don't waste your money on things you don't need to, right? The only person you're proving, you know, if you buy Maze Bank, you're just basically saying, I have poor money management. Sure, if you have a lot of money and you want to buy it, go ahead. But I don't really understand the reason why you'd ever do that when they're literally right next to each other. The final one we have is agencies. You have a couple different agencies. We've got Howick, Rockford Hills, Vespucci Canals, and Little Seal. If you own the Arcadius Tower, which is right here, Little Seal is by far the best. And it's actually one of the cheapest at $2 million, as we can see. It is the cheapest of the locations. So Little Seal is actually a great property. If you own Maze Bank West, which is over here, then I'd recommend to go for Vespucci Canals or Rockford Hills. I love Vespucci because it's super easy to run right into the doors, where the Little Seal or Rockford Hills location is a little bit more annoying. You know, run up the stairs. So because of that, I'd recommend Little Seal. But you can let me know your personal feelings, comments, and opinions. That's basically all the businesses in Grand Theft Auto Online. Honestly, I think most of the locations should be pretty self-explanatory. Buy the ones that are closest to your businesses, but don't break the bank while doing so. When it comes to upgrades, do not buy anything cosmetic until you have extra money, right? A lot of times I'll see people that only have a couple million to their name, and they'll spend all of that money on cosmetics for the business, and then they won't have any to actually get the upgrades they need. So always save your money on cosmetics. Yes, if you want to splurge on some nice decor, go ahead. But my recommendation, earn money with the properties first, and then once you've made that money, you can spend it on those businesses later. But that's really as simple as it gets. The only final properties to finish off with, which I almost forgot about, are specifically special cargo and the normal warehouses. We can see the warehouses that I own here. I have 5 warehouses, and they are all right down the road. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're going for large warehouses, these are the 5 you should buy. They're all within a couple miles of each other, and these 4 are right down the road, which is obviously very important. And your vehicle warehouse, this is the cheapest in the game, and it's actually in a really, really good location, so that's the one that I would recommend to buy. I almost forgot about that, and I was like, wait a second. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Tried to make this one as short as possible, and as, information-packed. If you learned something new, please consider smashing that subscribe button, and apart from that, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!